What's up, bitches, and welcome to Megtalks. So, before I get into what this podcast is going to be all about, I do want to go ahead and say if you are under the age of 18, this podcast is not for you. And if you are anybody in my family, especially my father, you need to leave once I get to question 49 because that is whenever the rated R questions come in. I did want to go ahead and say that I am new at this, and so I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. This may completely flop and be a disaster, but if it is, so what? I don't give a fuck. So for this podcast, I decided to be like a getting to know me podcast. And so I had some family and friends write me in some questions that they would want me to answer or that they thought I should answer. And there's 81 of them. And so this one isn't going to be a very long one. Like if I were to have guests, it would be a little bit longer. And I want to go ahead and put this out there as well that eventually videos will be added on to this as well. But for now, it's just audio. And I know my audio sucks. That's because I don't have the equipment here with me. Once I do get that next month, then everything would be amazing and it would sound great. But for now, y'all are just gonna have to deal with it. So let's get into the first question. It says, why did I start a podcast? So I haven't really found like a deep reason behind it other than I'm a very open person and I know there's a lot of women like me who hide behind insecurities or their family may not approve whatever, and I want people like me to know, male or female, that it is okay to express who you are, fuck what everybody else says, but also because I was told to do this by a lot of my family and friends, so here I am. Do you hope it goes somewhere? I mean, I don't care if it does or it doesn't. Honestly, it's just for fun. It's not anything super serious. Are you worried about getting backlash? No, I'm not worried about getting backlash. Because I really don't care. It is who I am, and I have a past, and I'm just here to talk about it. Will I have guests? And if we want to become a guest, how do we go about doing that? For one, I'm not famous, so you just hit me up on Facebook or text me or whatever. And yes, I will have guests. Number five, what will you talk about? Like I said, whenever I started this, I'm going to be talking about anything and everything that is asked, what my guests want to talk about, just whatever. Will we ever have to pay? If this shit goes off the charts, then I mean, yeah, I'm gonna start making people pay because I'm gonna make money off of me spending my time making a podcast. Do you think that you will stay doing this podcast? If it does good, then obviously, yes, of course. What are your plans if this goes big? Not to change. I'm going to be who I am, and people are going to like me or not. Can we message you topics and discussions and or questions we may have? Of course you can. Number 10 is, where will you be posting? So YouTube for now, but once I start getting subscribers there, I'll move on to Spotify so that way you guys are just not having to pull up YouTube. You can just push play on Spotify and just listen through your earbuds or however you choose to do so. So, the next set of questions are more about like family and friends and being a mom, things like that. Number 11 says, what does your family think about your openness? I mean, they've learned to live with it. It's just who I am. So, it is what it is. Number 12 is, do you have good relationships with your family members? I mean, I think I have good relationships with some and bad relationships with others. I think that's normal. Number 13, what is the best thing about being a mom? I mean, I there's not just one certain thing that is amazing about being a mom. So I am not going to answer that question. What is the worst thing about being a mom? The anxiety behind trying to make for sure everything is perfect for your children. Also feeling like a failure all the time. I know a lot of moms feel that way. It's just a normal mom thing. Struggles of being a single mom. So obviously, I have no me time. Um, it's hard to go out with friends or do anything that I enjoy, but that's okay because I decided to get pregnant super young and this is my fault. Wishes for my children to live their best life and for them to be healthy. Do I have mental struggles? So, yes, I do. And this is going to be like a single episode by itself, going more into details about what I was diagnosed with, what I think caused those past trauma, etc. What is my 5 year plan to get married and to have more babies and get a nice ass house and get a lot of money? Number 19 is marriage. Like, do I want to get married? Obviously. Do I want more kids? Maybe one more, two more, but I'm also only 23, so I got plenty of time. Proudest achievements? Honestly, the things that I've achieved in the last 6 months since I was able to get on my feet by myself and provide for me and my kids by myself because that is amazing. Um, One thing that you would and would not change about yourself. I have a lot of insecurities, so there's a lot of things I would change about myself. But one thing I wouldn't is my personality. Well, I guess the one thing I would change about myself is the way I react to things that I cannot control. So that's probably one of my major ones. What is one thing that you cannot live without other than your kids? Sex, if I'm being honest. What is my biggest fear? Something happening to my kids. What is my favorite color and why? Red has been my favorite color for a long time. And that's just a very sexy color to me, and that's why. What do you, what? I read that wrong. My bad, guys. Where do you want to live? I'm not for sure if this is like meaning state or if I want to like live in a city or the country. I definitely want to stay in Texas and I'm obsessed with living in the country, so I'm good where I'm at for a while. What would you do with $1 million? Set my whole entire family up and then worry about myself after. What is one thing you cannot wake up without? Morning cuddles from my babes. Um, One memory you could erase from your mind. So this question and the next question actually kind of go together, but it would be me knocking on the back of the truck that my mom was in whenever she was passing away and me and the EMTs opening the doors and me seeing my mom lifeless with a Lucas device on her chest. That was, I wish that moment plays over my head quite often. Um so this is another question about my mom. And this question is, what is it like, or what was it like losing your mom, and how is it now? So I'm going to do a separate podcast going into details, but I mean, obviously, it's hard whenever you lose somebody you love. Um, and like I said, this it's kind of hard to go into too much details without overlapping what I'm going to say in a different podcast. But it sucked. It hurt, and I'm still hurt. And a lot of people say it gets easier. It doesn't get easier. You just learn to push the pain away for another day. But days you are the days that you push that away just add up to the day that you're going to completely break, and that happens to me quite often. So how is it now? It's still the same as it was the day that she passed away. Having kids young. Yes, I had my first baby whenever I was 18, got pregnant at 17, and then had my son at 21. What is my advice? Don't. Not that I regret having my babies, but I missed out on so many high school experiences that I wish I could have been a part of. Um, what were my reactions to finding out I was pregnant? That's actually a very funny story. I know my dad will never get on this podcast, so I might as well just. So, whenever I figured out I was pregnant with my daughter, I was in a relationship with my first baby daddy, and he will be on the podcast eventually. Just can't physically be here now. And my son's father, anyways, um, I was excited because I had already kind of knew, but my family's reaction was, well, we all kind of knew it was going to happen anyways. And whenever I got pregnant with my son, it was the same thing. So, not a very big shock for my family. I think we're up to like 13, 14 grandchildren now for my dad. So, it's very normal. Um, how many sisters do you have? So, I have three biological sisters and then one stepsister. Let's see, what's the next question? Childbirth. Um, it was horrific, but it was the best moment of my life. I'll go more into that on a different podcast as well. Some of these are like things that would take a whole podcast to explain. How is it like living alone? Well, that's kind of a stupid question because I don't live alone. I live with two children. So, I mean, if it's like not living without another adult, that sucks because there's certain things that I want to talk about that I can't talk about too with my 5 year old and my 2 year old, but it is what it is. That's why friends come over and I go over to family. High school experience. So, I mean, it is what it is. The time I was in there, I know that it was either my freshman or sophomore year. And for any of you people I went to high school with, I know you're going to know what I'm talking about. So, obviously, this is probably going to get back to this person. And if you are this person, I don't care what you have to say. So, please leave me alone. I'm not name dropping you. Um, I was a talk of the school year one year because I ended up having sex in the basketball locker room with somebody who was quite up there on the social scale. Let's just say that. And yeah, it was very interesting. Let's see. Have you ever done drugs? Yes, and what drugs? I'm not going to disclose that information, maybe in a later podcast, but I have done drugs. Have I done drugs since I've had kids? No. Do you have, I mean, Delta, I've smoked Delta, but I haven't done any hardcore drugs since I've had kids. No, I won't. My kids are my priority, not a high that I can get from a drug. Do you have insecurities? Of course, I have insecurities. I think we all do. I think some people's pride are just too big to let them admit to it. How do you want people to remember you? I don't give a fuck if you remember me or not. That's on you. My biggest fear, I think I've already answered this question, losing my kids. 39. Do you know the Muffin Man Jesus? So, Chris told me to ask this question, and Chris, yes, I know the Muffin Man, just for you. What are my thoughts on gays? I don't care. I mean, I'm bisexual, so, I mean, love who you want to love. I'm not gonna judge you. How is it like having a loved one in jail? Absolutely is heartbreaking and it sucks because Texas justice system is a piece of shit. What is my job? I'm not going to disclose that information because I don't want it getting back to my job. What did you want to do before you had kids? I wanted to be a marine biologist or a mortician, and don't ask me why I wanted to be a mortician. That I wanted to be a marine biologist because I really like marine life. Like, I'm big into sharks and, you know, that kind of thing. What is my favorite flavor of Fruit Loop? This is another Chris question, and they all taste the same, Chris. What I'm not even going to ask this question until a later podcast. Why do you think men only want eye candy to date? So, I think it's because of this generation, and I think that men feel like they have to have a bimbo on their side. Um, as a female who is not the best looking, I can say that it is a very big like punch in the gut, because women like me who are people who will love you with our whole hearts and not cheat on you and not do anything that is, like, I don't know how to explain it, but I want to say it's because of this generation. I want to say men are more worried about tits and ass than they are about heart and personality. Are you in a relationship? I am in a relationship. Who is my favorite baby daddy? The one I'm in a relationship with. What is my body count? 43. I believe so. I may be missing a few. And are you ashamed of your body count? Fuck no. Why would I be? Um, how do I get started into BDSM? This is going to be a whole episode. Um, and am I am trying to bring a guest on who actually unlocked all of my kinks for me, but I don't know if he's going to or not. So he would be the best person to explain that aspect. Um, so I mean, for now, just look up on Google what BDSM is and like how to get into it. Do I have an OnlyFans? Yes, I do have an OnlyFans. Somebody asked what type of content I post on OnlyFans. The content that most bitches post on OnlyFans. Am I a top or a bottom? I'm definitely a bottom because I like to be controlled. Dom or submissive, and what does being a submissive or dom mean to you? I'm definitely not a dominant. I hate having control in the bedroom. As a submissive, it is my job to please my dom, and that's what it means to me. What is my freakiest encounter? Once again, that is one of those questions that I'm going to wait until this person who unlocked my kinks is available or wants to do a podcast with me, because I would let him explain it. How many actual DOMs have I been with? Just one. Are you a sadist or a masochist? Now, if people come to me about the way I said that word, I've never been able to pronounce it right. For you who don't know what a sadist or a masochist is, a sadist is somebody who likes to inflict pain, and a masochist is somebody who likes to receive pain. I'm definitely a masochist, as I am submissive. That goes hand in hand. What are my limits? I have never reached a limit with somebody. And so yeah, getting into BDSM advice. Once again, that kind of goes with how do you get into BDSM. My biggest advice was and is to do it with somebody that you trust and somebody who knows what the fuck they're doing. Because if not, shit can go bad and emotional trauma can happen. It's we'll get more into BDSM and what it can look like for different people. What are my top 3 kinks? Praise, like being called good girl is the hottest thing a man can say to me, just saying. Um, Degrading at the same time, like call me your worthless slut and then tell me how good I look sucking your dick. Like that is um my third kink. I don't I mean I don't know if it's necessarily a kink, but I just like to be controlled. I mean, I think that's just a submissive, but so somebody asked what kind of submissive I am, and I'm a bratty submissive. Um, so look that up if you don't know what it is. That's another one that we would answer in a later podcast as well. Um, have you ever played with knives and sex, and what was your reaction to it, and is it dangerous? So yes, it's called knife play, and it's actually very hot. Um, what was my reaction? Obviously, I was turned on to it. And is it dangerous? Fuck yes, if you're doing it with somebody who doesn't know what they're doing, obviously. Is what you do is what you do whenever you are having sex dangerous? I mean, yes, some of the things can be extremely dangerous if you're doing it with somebody who does not know what they're doing. Would you ever be willing to be with somebody who is not a dom but a submissive? Fuck no. I couldn't. I am too much of a submissive that I could never play a role of a dom. That's just not who I am. I wouldn't even know how to become a dom. Do your family and friends ask you about BDSM? Yes. Believe it or not, I've had a lot of people ask me about BDSM that are in my family. Has anyone ever worried about your relationships and or marks that have been left on your body whenever you had playtime? So playtime or subspace or whatever is whenever you are in your submissive mindset and your dom controls everything. Um, yes, I have had some very dark and concerning marks left on my body. My family almost called the cops, but once they knew I consented to it and that I was safe and that I was okay, they let go of it. Do I have scars from any moments with a dominant? Yes, I do. What is edging? Edging is different for some people, but overall, edging is dom, um, where you're about to come and then they know about it and they don't let you come. That is edging. Like you just get more and more and more and more, and then it finally lets you come, and it's the biggest orgasm you have. Choking. Am I into choking? To everybody who knows me right now, they're laughing about that question. Yes. That is my biggest turn on. Like, you can walk up and choke me, and I'll be on my knees in 2 seconds. And I should have never said that, but it is what it is. Being tied up, yes, I fuck with being tied up. I've done it before. I think it's hot. It makes me lose complete control of everything. This is kind of a comment and a question. It says, I used to remember when you only mess with dudes that wore chains. Is that still a thing, and why was it ever a thing? Because you were addicted. So, number one, I love it when a man wears chains because they make a very pretty sound whenever you're fucking. Very pretty sound. Um, Threesomes, I've had a threesome. Would I ever do it again with somebody I did not know? Yes. Would you rather it be a girl and a guy, or two guys or two girls? I mean, I fuck with all of those scenarios, so either or. Favorite celebrity and why? Matthew Stephen Rife. He could use me like a piece of plastic. He could disrespect me, and I would be the happiest camper ever. I do apologize. That was my daughter in the background. So next question. Um, if you could choose no sex for a year or living in a shack that you had unlimited money to improve, what would you choose? Well, first and foremost, you can turn anything into a home. I've learned that. So, a shack, obviously, because it's not about what's inside of the home that makes it the home, it's about the people inside of it. How could I talk my significant other into BDSM? This is a question that I really want that person to answer. But if you can't talk to your significant other about your sexual desires, then there's an issue there. And yeah. Have you ever had sex for money? Fuck no. Will you ever have sex for money? Nunny. Pfft. Money? No, I'm not a prostitute. Spicy audio, and who do you listen to? A YSF, because it's amazing. And I would suggest not listening to his videos on YouTube. Go subscribe to his subscribe star and listen to him there because they are very, very much so. Mm-mm-mm. This person said, would you rather watch porn or hear it? I love audio. So, like, I'm a very auditorial person. So, I could do both, but I would prefer to listen. What type of toys do I have? A lot. Pretty much every toy you can think of. The best person in bed, his name starts with an E, and if you know me, you know what I'm talking about. And if you don't, I'm not gonna name drop because I know that's gonna cause a lot of issues. Worst person is my ex Zach. Um, I can't believe I just said that. Um, do you think people will judge you when it comes to your openness about sex, and do you care? Yeah, I think people judge people for walking the wrong way. I think people judge people for not having straight teeth just because they want to be assholes. Yeah, but no, I don't care. Are you a collar and leash type of sub? I do have a collar and a leash. Have I ever been in a play space where it actually happened? No. Would I love to? Yes. So these next few questions, I there was more, and I was debating on if I was going to answer them or not, but I'll just kind of answer a few of them. So this one said, "Have you ever thought that the way that you are and the way you are so open about your sexual desires would affect your kids?" No, because I'm not sitting here portraying a submissive in front of my children. I'm taking care of my children as I should. So, no, it doesn't affect them. What happens behind closed doors is my business, obviously. Um, these are kind of suggestions about podcasts that people want me to do in the near future. And a lot of them are sexual, I'm not going to lie. So I just want you guys to know that a lot of what I post and a lot of my podcasts are going to have probably 60% of it sexual advice or whatever. And obviously, I'm not fucking perfect, and in no way am I saying this, but a lot of females that are into the stuff that I'm into are so scared to be open and help people through their questions that they have because they're afraid of being judged, which is bullshit. But I'll be that person to answer those questions. Um, and another person asked, "I'm afraid to send in questions and or be on your podcast because I don't want to be name dropped." You will never be name dropped if you do not want to. Whatever you ask me is between you and I. The only reason I name dropped a few people on here is because I don't give a fuck and neither do they. Um, and so with that being said, like it's really up to you. And another person asked, "Would you charge somebody to be on your podcast?" Fuck no. Once again, I already answered this question at the very beginning. I have no reason to charge you guys. I'm not nothing but a single mom who works from home and or other places and has an OnlyFans and takes care of her kids. That's all I am. I'm nobody. So with that being said, fuck no. Now, will I be very kind of well, I set parameters about things that we do talk about. I mean, obviously, but I'm not going to talk about stuff that you guys are uncomfortable with if you're on my podcast. As a listener or as a viewer, I all I ask from you guys is to hit that like button and subscribe and comment about some things that obviously you want to hear. I think that this may wrap this podcast up because honestly, this was all I was going to do was just answer a few questions. I will most likely be posting again after 4th of July just because I do have a lot going on and or I could do this stuff every single day. I don't know. It's going to be depending on my schedule, my kids and things like that. But I will say that I plan on not posting anything until after July 4th possibly, and I believe that episode I think I think in that episode, like I said, we're just gonna talk more into like past trauma, advice on what to do if this happens, how to talk to this person, because I have had a lot of detailed questions about like trauma and anxiety and depression from people who are too afraid to ask these questions to just normal people, and they trust me enough not to name drop them. So that would be the next podcast. Um, so yeah, I hope you guys all have a great 4th of July, and I am about to pass the fuck out. So stay safe, bitches.